Media support is another issue which may at first make Linux seem unappealing to new users. As I've said, Linux may fulfill the role of a media center for every home, for any user perfectly. It can support virtually any audio-visual file format available on the market. Actually, Linux offers much more extensive audio-video support than Windows. Many formats that are problematic for Windows users are supported in Linux without a problem. The best example of this is the MKV file format, or the so-called Matroska files, which are a very difficult problem to solve for many Windows users. Nobody really knew which application could open this file. The advantage of Linux is that any media player available for this system will open any multimedia file format you've installed codecs for. So there's no need to install different players just because one player does not support all formats. There are many media players available for Linux. In fact, because any of them can open any file format, the end user can truly focus on selecting a tool that suits him or her best. In Linux, you'll come across both media players designed specifically for Linux, as well as those that you know from Windows. For example, Windows users will be familiar with both the VLC media player and mPlayer. When it comes to dedicated media players, we can name, for example, Caffeine, Dragon, or Totem. These media players are, to a lesser or greater extent, adapted to a specific desktop environment. VLC and mPlayer do not favor any particular desktop environment. Caffeine and Dragon are more adapted to the KDE environment, while Totem is designed more for the GNOME desktop. When it comes to audio players, Amarok and Clementine are designed for KDE, while Rhythmbox is designed to work well under the GNOME desktop. If a GNOME user prefers Amarok, it's possible to use it there. Likewise, you can use Rhythmbox in KDE environment. There are also other additional frameworks, such as XBMC or XMMS. The latter may be an interesting alternative for people who are accustomed to using Winamp, because it's its clone. XBMC is an application that was originally written for the Xbox console, as a platform allowing to transform the console into a home media center. It's currently available for all Linux distributions. Unfortunately, as in its case with most Linux applications or file formats, there are some licensing issues involved. Therefore, you won't find its codecs in repositories. This may seem to pose a problem, because it may appear that, due to this fact, Linux will not be able to play some file formats, such as the popular MP3. What's the use of a system that doesn't support MP3 files? In reality, this isn't the case. Linux handles MP3 files much better than Windows does. The problem concerns only the tool itself. The MP3 format is patented in the United States. For licensing reasons, it may not be distributed in a Linux system package. This runs against the open source, freely distributed software. To make up for that, Linux tries to support open standards such as Ogg Vorbis, or the above-mentioned Matroska. Interestingly, these standards are far better than the MP3 standard. For example, Ogg Vorbis is a lossless standard, whereas MP3 uses a form of lossy data compression. The quality of an Ogg file is much better than the quality of a sound file recorded as MP3. It's the same with Matroska. Popular Windows video formats include AVI or DivX. The Matroska file format is rarely used. In one Matroska file, however, you can include unlimited number of audio, video, and text streams. Thus, one file format can be used to provide a user with a set of media streams, which allows them to choose audio tracks, subtitle tracks, or even a video path. For example, the director's cut version and the regular one. As you can see, these standards are more complex. Moreover, due to the fact that they haven't been patented, there are no licensing issues involved, and they can be supported in Linux systems. When it comes to MP3 files or DivX format, which Windows users are accustomed to, it's easy to enable support for them in Linux. Unfortunately, this is not available by default, along with other elements of the Linux distribution. The licensing problem concerns only the US or Japan. European users are not really affected. You may be sure that by enabling MP3 file support, you don't break any laws in Europe. In the US, the issue is more complex and doesn't really mean that a certain company prohibits the use of the format. When it comes to some other file formats, the issue is not that their public use is forbidden because of legal reasons, but rather that the developer no longer wishes to use resources to develop something for a market that no longer interests him. Thus, sometimes no implementation is available, but the developer doesn't hamper its creation. Open source community can handle such situations. Many software developers have created different codecs, applications, and tools. That's why Linux, provided it's configured in the right way, can support any type of audio-video codecs available on the market, including those that Windows would not be able to open. Fedora users will find all extra codecs necessary to enable the support of those formats that are available on the market, but which the system doesn't support by default, in the RPM Fusion repository. For OpenSUSE, they're available in the Pacman repository. The developers are aware of the fact that the choice of the system distributions places some limitations on the end user. That a given distribution doesn't formally support certain solutions doesn't mean that this solution cannot be found in some semi-official repository. It's usually the case that developers publish a main release, in which the distribution conforms fully to the regulations, and an additional repository containing software with some licensing issues, thus giving users the choice whether to use it or not. How do we install the above-mentioned software? Once you've added the repositories, in a moment we'll show you how to do it, you'll need to add a few drivers. In both systems, this is the following set of codecs. GStreamer plugins bad. GStreamer plugins bad non-free. GStreamer plugins ugly. It's also recommended to install libquicktime and libquicktime utils, which will enable you to play videos on the internet websites such as IMDb, etc. Video materials on internet sites use either QuickTime format or the Windows Media Video format, due to DRM by filmmakers. Sometimes in Linux, you can use the approach known from Windows. If you install the mPlayer or VLC, it will largely solve your problem. These two players have their own internal set of codecs that evade all limitations. They support and are able to play all available standards of audio-video files. mPlayer is especially recommended. This is a very nice video player that offers amazing capabilities when it comes to matching audio tracks, video tracks, and subtitles. The player makes it possible, for example, to delay audio track relative to the video track, or to accelerate the rate of subtitle display, even if these data streams come from different files, or if the audio track is embedded in the AVI. These players also allow you to take simple screenshots. mPlayer is distributed together with the tool mmcoder, which can turn any audio-video format to any other format audio-video. It offers a very extensive set of functionalities, but it's equally useful as a media center for everyday use. Now let's get back to the issue of additional repositories. RPM Fusion is the primary repository for additional software. Just click on the appropriate link on the web page, rpmfusion.org, and packages stored in this repository will be visible in your software management app. We can now search for the GStreamer codec. Find the needed codecs in the result area and install them just as we did in the case of additional software. Once you install the codecs, each system media player which uses the GStreamer standard, which means the majority of them, will open audio-video formats from virtually any source. An alternative to GStreamer is Zine. However, many distributions no longer support Zine. If your favorite player uses this standard, all you need to do is install necessary libraries. The most common is ZineLib. In OpenSUSE distribution, a Zine version that offers support for more audio-video formats is called libzine1. However, you cannot add additional codecs to the Zine library, as is the case in GStreamer. For GStreamer, it's enough that you install additional package and new codecs will automatically be supported. Unfortunately, some functionalities of Zine are built in, and that's why there's two packages for OpenSUSE. In the official repositories, there's ZineLib. In the Pacman repository, there's libzine1. Libzine1 is more extensive. This is one of the reasons why the support for libzine has been discontinued, and the emphasis was put on GStreamer. Virtually all players available in the Fedora repository, Totem, Dragon, VLC, etc., will support the audio-video framework based on the codecs available in the GStreamer by default. Therefore, by installing additional packages, you should be able to solve the problem with less popular audio-video formats. The issue that may persist, however, is older versions of DVDs with regional lockout, and older types of encoding. Fortunately, these solutions have been abandoned, and modern DVDs, even those sold in shops, use different encoding, supported in Linux. For older DVDs, you need to install the DCSS package, which currently is available only in the RPM Lavina org repository. Within the OpenSUSE distribution, a similar role is fulfilled by VLC DCSS repo. This situation results from the fact that, in the case of DCSS, legal issues are more restrictive, and thus the package cannot be published even in semi-official repositories. That would be a considerable licensing violation. Unfortunately, neither DVD players manufacturers nor the DVD standard developers have provided software dedicated for Linux, and the package is the only way to enable the support for older DVDs with regional lock.